Hey, what's up? This is Dillio, and I'm going to tell you why these could be obsolete soon.
Dillio T2K.
What's up, guys? Before we get started, make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button and share this video on your social media platforms everywhere. We're going to dive into this. Now, if you haven't been watching the internet or been on there for a while, you might have known that that Behringer is coming out with a clone of the TR-808, and what I have here is another clone of the TR-808. It's actually Roland's version of their clone of the original TR-808, which came out, I believe, in 1982 or 1983, which was a fully analog drum machine. And since then, there has been many reincarnations. First, I remember there being an early reincarnation of their TR-808 and 909 drum machines. There's a company called Propellerhead who actually recreated that software, which I thought was pretty cool. And it had a very accurate sound. Of course, it used samples and stuff like that. And then over the years, you would find these small mom and pop shops who would actually recreate the drum machine and actually use full circuit architecture, full analog circuit architecture to basically recreate the sound and create the drum machine experience. Of course, it would be shaped kind of like the original TR-808, and of course, they would have their own characteristics. And then on top of that, I remember watching a documentary about the TR-808 and how I guess they couldn't find any more of these flawed circuits that gave that 808 its own sound. And then on top of that, I even heard that every TR-808 has their own characteristics because it was made from analog technology, and they are pretty old machines now. And to find one new, if you can find one new, they are in excess above of $400. So now we can fast forward to recently when they Roland decided to come out their boutique series. Now, when they first dropped the first 3 synthesizers of the boutique series, because I haven't personally been exposed to those synthesizers, I was not very excited about them, and I actually was very late to the game because they actually came out with 3 synthesizers that recreated actually 3 of their earlier synthesizers that were originally analog. And what they called themselves doing was taking technology called analog circuit behavior, and they created these products that sounded very accurately close to the originals using digital synthesis without using analog chips. And the thing is that when you're dealing with analog synthesizers, as I was told, or as I've learned early on, is that it can be very expensive. And let's fast forward to this. Now they started to release this machine right here, which is the TR-08. Now Roland did a release of another drum machine called the TR-9, which basically was this green box, and it followed that same analog circuit behavior. And I was kind of disappointed it wasn't analog, but I checked it out and it sounded pretty good. And it has a nice aesthetic to it. It was black and green, and I thought that was pretty cool, but it wasn't enough to really get me to bite the bullet. I always wanted to get it, but I kind of felt it was a little pricey, and I just wasn't really quite feeling it because, again, it wasn't the analog thing. And even though a lot of these things sound very close to the original, it still just wasn't the thing. Now, they eventually came out with the TR-909 or the TR-909 remake or the TR-09, and then they came out with the TR-08. And these really made my eyebrows raise because now we had something that looked like the original machine, and I wanted to get my producer feels on and have something cool to look at and make beats with. So eventually I started trying this out. They had one on display at Guitar Center when I was finally able to get my hands on it for a change instead of watching YouTube videos. And I actually really liked the sound out of it. And but again, these came out brand new at $350, and they were kind of pricey. And it was only until a President's Day sale came around where the price could be knocked down to what I felt would be a more reasonable price to buy this. And you know, I always wanted to have some sort of dedicated drum machine and have something to play with, and the fact that this looks like the original TR-8, I mean, it really made a great looking machine. It was great, but then it was still the boutique format. You got little knobs and all this stuff. It's very portable, very fun, but it still left a little bit to be desired, even though it's a very fun machine to use, and it sounds incredible. It sounds very accurate, or it sounds very good. The drums hit, the kicks shake the room, the snares crack your ears. It's a very fun machine, and what I liked was learning the challenges of programming something like this without a nice big vivid LCD display, just numbers. And the thing that I like about older drum machines like this is that it makes you have to listen to what you're doing instead of looking at it on a screen and seeing what it's doing. But on top of that, what was kind of surprising to me about this unit was that this was a USB powered thing. It took 4 AA batteries that you can run on their own. and it only had a phone's output, audio output, and then a mix in, and then a MIDI in and out, and that was basically it. So, you know, the original TR-808 actually had individual outputs. I don't think it had MIDI sync at the time. I could be wrong. Someone will correct me in the comments. But it didn't have that. So it wasn't only till after a few days ago that I saw that Behringer, which has been kind of like on this rampage of taking all the old synthesizers that have been out yesteryear and remaking them in these smaller, nice quality, full feature packages that cost less and sound as good and have a few new modern features. For example, they came out with the Moog Model D. Now this was a very interesting situation because the Moog Model D, Moog recently actually did a reissue of it and came out with it again. Now this is like their first portable keyboard size synthesizer that was fully analog back in the day. And again, remember, analog's very expensive, so to get a Moog Model D, it was very coveted to get one, and it was very expensive to get one. And then they started making them again, but they still basically charged about 40 grand for that. And of course, I didn't really have that laying around. Then Behringer comes along and takes the original architecture and recreates it in their own small format package and charges only $300 for that. Now they're coming out with all kinds of different things. They're coming out with a new drum machine that is based off of the original TR-808. And it is a fully analog synthesizer. And I'm very excited about that because, for one thing, Behringer has been putting out a lot of cool products that are fully analog. They got the Moog Model D coming out, they got the Neutron coming out. They have these devices and I'm not quite sure what to expect, but from the demos it sounds pretty good. So it kind of makes me look at Roland like, what are you guys doing? And you know, I think a lot of people have mixed feelings about Behringer taking a lot of the older Roland synthesizers and Moog synthesizers and remaking them. But for a little old guy like me who doesn't have a huge budget to drop 4 grand on a full-fledged Moog, which probably sounds the best and amazing, it's cool to get something cool to the original. And the thing about that new Behringer 808 prototype that I saw online was that it had individual outputs. It had MIDI in, out, and through. It had transient shapers, it had effects, and it was a fully analog signal path, not analog circuit behavior. And a lot of people were waiting for Roland to do something like this, and Behringer just kind of just stepped right in and say, hey, we'll do it. And it's like ruthless. It's like, wow, can you really do that? Because this is unheard of. A lot of people have been waiting for Roland to do something like this for a long time, but for whatever reason, the management decided not to do so. And I can understand that. It's probably not a lot of high profit margin for them. And again, as I understand it, analog circuitry is really expensive. But from what I can learn from what Behringer is doing, maybe analog circuits and maybe analog musical equipment is not as expensive as people make it out to be. So now we have a new drum machine coming out that looks like this, but it's actually a full big machine, has individual outputs. I'm actually really excited to get my hands on it. They're talking about dropping it in August, which will be here in no time. So it's really surprising, and I'm really excited about that. And it could render this thing obsolete, even though it sounds great, but it doesn't give you that quite same experience that you would have had with something a little larger, fully analog, just because you can say it's fully analog. A lot of stuff sounds really good. I mean, how many times have you seen this thing sampled on every keyboard, on the block, sound module, music production software? Everybody has sounds from the original TR-808 because it's such an iconic sound, and it's still useful even to this day. So we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on this product? I'd love to hear your opinions on that. If you like this video, please make sure you leave a comment and let me know what you think, what you don't like, or what you'd like to see me talk about else in the other videos. And make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. I'm Dillio. You're watching Dillio T2K. Make sure you check out the link in the description below. I got some nice presets and samples for sale for your music production needs. And I also have an album coming out, Majykbox, which is coming out very soon. So stay tuned for that. All right, I'm out of here. Peace out. This video is sponsored by Khemikals, a preset library from Massive, including pads, leads, bass sounds, and more. Be sure to visit DillioT2K.com to hear it live and pick up your copy today.